We're going to start tonight's meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Scott Morgan. Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Tonight's meeting is a study meeting, and we'll set the agenda for the 1980th regular meeting, which will be a voting meeting and take place on Wednesday, November 1st, where tonight's items will be officially voted on. If you would like to participate in any of tonight's agenda items, please make note and come to the podium at the applicable time. You will notice that the council will offer a variety of motions this evening, denying, approving, referral to a committee, or something else. Those motions will carry through and be officially voted on, or something else might be offered at the next regular agenda meeting. So at this time, we will set 30 minutes available for public communication. Each member of the audience has up to 3 minutes during this meeting to address the council on any non-agenda items. We will start that now. Ms. McIntyre will start the clock as the parliamentarian. Good evening, sir. Your name and address, please.
Thank you, Council President. Christopher Martin, and the state of Michigan. Just want to thank this opportunity here for the free speech. Big advocate of that. And the 7 o'clock meeting, I expressed my opinion on the upcoming election. And I think there's no finer thing than if people were to go back and look at item 12 on the 7 o'clock meeting and look at the explanation that Susan did on that. Lengthy, pretty accurate. I think that voting for anyone to replace Susan except the deputy clerk would be a mistake. And I realize that money and advertisements buy elections. There's one thing that I agreed with Jack Kirksey, and one of the very few things, is that when he said that those who spend the most money usually win. And there's a great truth to that, okay? It's unfortunate, but that's just part of life. Mm-hmm. When I ran for council, got 5,060 votes, I spent $1,000 of my own money. Had no endorsements, and trust me, I could have got some money from the UAW and other unions out there, but I chose not to take that route. I could have had endorsements from various individuals, but once again, $1,000 doesn't get you very far in printing up all this stuff. So, young Mr. Donovic evidently took exception to my explaining, okay, and wanted to defend this individual, and that's fine. That's well within his right, and I view that as just his young inexperience, okay, and nothing more than that, okay? And but life is what it is. We'll know on election day who is the next clerk, but that's a job with responsibility. That's not a treasurer's job or whatever, okay? That actually takes some skill level involved in it. And I always got along well with Susan. I thought she did a good job in trying to do the best that she could over there. So once again, I would encourage people to go back to the 7 o'clock meeting, look at number 12, item 12, and then decide to vote for the deputy clerk that knows something, okay? The other candidate, I do feel knows as much about that job as my cat. And although Miss Kitty's pretty smart, she's just a cat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Anybody else wishing to address the council? I see none. Any announcements from the council here? I see none. We'll hop right into the scheduled agenda. New business, item 1 is a request to waive the sidewalk requirement for the newly constructed home at 11401 Hubble Street. That comes to us from Razvan Guragu. Giorgio?
Yes.
Sorry, I apologize. Good evening, sir. You have this petition before us. Tell us what you are looking for.
Good evening to everybody. The only request I have is to waive the sidewalk. Nobody else on the whole street. They do have a sidewalk. It's a dirt road. I don't see the point of having just one sidewalk on
Well, you
the
can
whole
be the
street.
first.
Well,
Do I have direction from the council?
Council President,
Mr. McCullough?
I'd be happy to offer an approving for consent.
Okay, any objections to consent from the council? I see none. You have an approving for consent, so you will not be the first with a sidewalk on your street.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Take care.
Yep.
Number 2 is a request to waive the sidewalk requirements for the newly constructed home at 19619 Angling Road from Richard Hurley and Sauve/Oro Construction LLC. Good evening. Your name, please?
Good evening, Vanessa Orozco.
Okay, and you're looking to waive your sidewalk requirement as well, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, do you live at this property?
No, it's under construction. It's my dad and his business partner's company.
Okay, what's the purpose for waiving it?
So there's no sidewalks on that road, on either side, at least a quarter mile on each side. There's also a pole in the way and there's trees in the way.
Okay, so you don't want to be the first either?
No, we're good.
Okay.
President.
Mr. Donovic?
Yeah, I've looked at this and there are no sidewalks on this side of Angling Street, I think all the way up and down between 7 Mile, 8 Mile almost. So I'd like to offer an approving on consent if there's no objection from my colleagues.
Thank you. Any objection from the council? I see none. Ms. Toy?
Real quick, who's your dad?
Jose Orozco.
Oh, I wondered if it was Hurley, that's all.
No,
Okay.
no, that's not
Well,
him.
great. Well,
I
say
wanted
hi.
to thank Miss McCullough because she's the reason I passed math class.
Oh, really, Miss Casey? Oh, my gosh, I'll tell her she's
Tell her she's the best.
probably not watching right now, but I'll give her a
Reason I
shout out.
passed math class, I'm telling you.
Math, too?
Math.
Wow.
It was tough.
Oh, she'll be so happy.
She spent so much time teaching you, she forgot to
She
teach him.
did. Thank you.
Great teacher.
Thank you very much.
You probably had something to do with it.
Oh, for sure.
Do we have audience comment on number 2? I see none. You're all set. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much.
Good luck. Item 3 is a request for authorization to purchase one 2023 Dodge Charger utilizing the state bid pricing from the police department to replace a high mileage existing vehicle from budgeted funds. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Council President, Vice President, members of the council. I'm Deputy Chief McDermott on behalf of the Police Department, and I'm here just to let you know the Police Department is requesting authorization to waive the sealed bid process to purchase one 2023 Dodge Charger. It's a police pursuit package, all-wheel drive, and we're going to utilize the State of Michigan consortium. The vehicle is going to be purchased from LaFontaine and Lansing for $35,557, and these funds have already been budgeted for that expense for this year. The vehicle is going to replace one of our 2 existing high mileage Chargers. Those 2 vehicles have close to 130,000 and 140,000 miles respectively. The new vehicle is scheduled to be built. It hasn't been built yet. It's one of the last ones that's going to be built. That's going to be a gasoline-powered engine. After this year, the Chargers are going to be 2-door and electric vehicles. So we want to get this purchase done as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Sure.
Chair.
Vice President Toy.
I'll ask for an approving resolution. It's replacing 2 vehicles, so it must be a very good vehicle.
Well, it will replace one of 2.
Oh, could have stuck to my
By
story.
the time we get it, we'll make a determination which one's in the best shape.
Okay, Your Honor, whatever you say.
We have an approving for consent. Mr. Donovic.
Thanks, Mr. President. Deputy Chief, I know you mentioned that the future model of this vehicle will be electric. Is there any thought to changing models? Probably doesn't sound very reasonable to have electric vehicles driving around for
Well,
12,
yeah,
13 hours a day.
Yeah, I doubt that we're going to do that because also that's going to be a 2-door vehicle, so not appropriate for our purposes. We'll be looking at other things in the future. We use more than one type of vehicle as it is now, but strike permitting, we'll like to get this vehicle on board this year, and then we'll make a determination of what kind of vehicles will be appropriate in the future.
Can only imagine two-door police cars, that'd be interesting. We may as well get Corvettes next. Thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you. That'll be on consent if there's no objection. Is there audience comment on 3? I don't see any. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Item 4 is an award of bid from Community Resources and Communications Department for the purchase, installation, and training of camera equipment to be used by the Cable Department from budgeted funds. Good evening, Kristen. Tell us your name and title, please.
Kristen Houchins, Interim Director of Community Resources and Communications. This is my first time at council, so please be kind tonight.
Well, we'll see what you say.
Community Resources Department and Communications Department is requesting an award of bid to Film Tools, a local vendor that we've regularly utilized in the past, for a camera package. This camera package replaces cameras, accessories that were used with our production truck for multi-camera recordings. The truck was decommissioned by DPW in the summer of 2001, and it was sold at auction for $14,800. With that event, we lost our studio camera setups, and that equipment actually dates back to the early 2000s, so you can imagine how they were not working with today's technology. The new gear is capable of 4K UHD recording and uses modern interfaces, recording standards, and recording media. The new gear is also more compact and transportable using our staff transit van. We're making the purchase from budgeted funds, and they were carried over from last year as we were unable to get the project underway due to shortages from manufacturers. Our budget was $150,000. We came in at $138,000, which is $12,000 under budget.
So you did well.
Thank you.
Are you wanting to speak?
Yeah.
Ms.
please.
McIntyre?
Thank you. Very nice job on your presentation. Great job. We hope you'll come back and see us a lot.
I hope so.
I'd like to offer an approving resolution for consent. This is replacing equipment that is clearly out of date. We no longer have our truck. You came in under budget, all the things we like to hear, so there are no objections.
Thank you. Anybody from the audience on item number 4? Seeing none, that'll be on consent. I'm hoping that these cameras have some sort, you know those filters that put like butterflies on people's faces? Mr. McCullough and Mr. Donovic really like that sort of thing.
We'll work on
So
that
if you
for you.
can take care of that, that would be
We'll work
helpful. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Oh, jeez.
Item number 5 is a request for authorization to purchase 4 Ford Escapes utilizing state of Michigan bid pricing from the inspection department to replace current outdated vehicles from budgeted funds. Good evening. How are you, sir?
Good evening. Jerome Hanna, Director of Inspection, and just looking to get an approval to replace 4 of our Ford Escapes. I've got several more, but in this market of trying to purchase vehicles right now, it's very difficult to find. And this opportunity came along because another community purchased these 4 vehicles under the state bid pricing and did not take delivery. And I happened to be making contact with the dealer at the time when that happened, and so that's why I'm before you now, kind of in a,
Mr. Chair.
Vice President Toy.
Mr. Hannah, will these, what color will these be?
white,
All white?
yes. Like all the other ones.
We tend to like the white ones, okay. I'll ask for an approving resolution. He puts them to good use.
Mr. Barr.
Jerome, just a couple questions. When you said this opportunity, are these new vehicles we're getting cheaper than what we would have expected, or what's the opportunity you're talking?
Well, the opportunity is they're at the dealership right now, so I don't have to wait for them.
Okay.
So once I'm approved, I'll have delivery of them.
So the vehicles that these are replacing, what's the mileage, age of those vehicles?
So I have about 7 vehicles that need to be replaced, but 4 of them that are getting costly. They range anywhere between about 87,000 miles on the high end to 65,000 miles on the low end.
So you said they're getting costly. Are we having a lot of repair issues with
Yes.
those? Or?
Yeah, I've got 2 that are somewhere between $3,000 to $4,000 in repairs, and the
That's,
trade-in will probably be around
I
5.
wouldn't expect that from vehicles 65 to 87,000 miles.
Well, these vehicles obviously are used heavily, stopping, starting, all city driving,
Okay,
so.
all right. Thanks. I don't have any objection.
Mr. Donovic.
Thanks, Mr. President. Thanks, Mr. Hanna, for being here. I know I had some discussions where you were trying to get some other type of vehicles, but you couldn't get them because there were manufacturing shortages, something to the effect of a year or two behind. So you kind of found this opportunity to kind of get some new vehicles into your fleet and not wait 1 or 2 years for some other type models.
Well, yeah, and actually these models, so buying through the state bid pricing and through government fleet, there's a limited number right now available. And I'm being told that to order Escapes and Rangers, which is what we have been using, I can't get until 2025. So to find 4 Escapes right now was obviously a great opportunity.
Okay. If there's nothing else from the council, we'll go to the audience, and nobody wants to speak. You're all set.
All right.
You're on consent. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hanna. Item number 5 begins the Ted Davis Show. An award of bid from, a request for authorization. No, it's right. Excuse me, it starts, number 6 starts the Ted Davis Show. An award of bid from the Department of Parks and Rec for the planning and design of the golf course master plan for the 3 Livonia courses from budgeted funds. Good evening, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Council President. Ted Davis, representing Parks and Recreation. I do have a couple of gentlemen from the golf courses, Doug Ware and Ryan Yoder, here as well. They would be happy to answer any very specific golf course questions. I know a great deal about the rough. I can speak fluently on that at any one of our courses. We are asking council to approve a master plan for all 3 of our municipal courses. We've had record years in 20, 21, 22, and I think 23 we're on pace to set another record. I think really it's time for us to invest in our courses. This is going to give us a physical assessment as well as maintenance plans, and they'll assess the entire course, right? We're talking about sprinkler systems, cart paths, tee boxes, greens. Give us maintenance plans, give us maybe some options to change the course or update the courses. Also physical assessments on our facilities, our buildings as well. We know we have issues at, we know like, Whispering Willows has a very nice clubhouse and bar area, and Fox has a clubhouse and a bar area. We also know we have needs, at those facilities, as well as Idlewild specifically, with older, buildings for maintenance and pro shops. So this will give us what we need in a roadmap here to kind of chart forward a 10-year master plan and kind of start addressing our golf courses.
Mr. Davis, would this plan be paid for out of enterprise funds?
So yes, the golf courses operate out of an enterprise fund. So 409 is their capital account. Yes, this would be paid for out of golf course capital funds.
So this project and what it would be talking about is enterprise funds?
Yes.
Yes, just to put that out there so that the public
There are
is
no
aware that
general
this-
fund dollars that go to this, no 208 monies, Parks and Recreation millage monies that go to this. Golf courses are self-sustaining.
Right, so there's no playground equipment being lost to do this?
No.
Good to know. Ms. McIntyre?
I think this is fantastic. We have great golf courses. I don't golf, but as you know, I help out with a lot of golf outings, and we continue to be a choice for a lot of organizations, not just
Sure.
Livonia-based ones, because we do have great courses. But we compete not just with other municipalities, we compete with private clubs. And for us to be able to continue to charge, I don't want to say premium fees, right? But we want to be able to offer a product that we can offer at a price point that is where other municipalities are, right? We don't want to have to, as our courses fall behind, we don't want to be in a situation where we can't charge the greens fees and the cart fees that other courses charge. I think this is fantastic, and I look forward to what we learn from the plan.
Thank you.
So I'd like to offer this for approval on consent, if
Thank
there are
you.
no objections.
If there's nothing from the council audience on 6, seeing none, we'll move on to 7. It's an award of bid from Parks and Rec for the wayfinding, fabrication, and installation of signage throughout the park system from budgeted funds.
Thank you, Council President Jolly. Again, Ted Davis representing Parks and Recreation. I did say this was kind of going to be a smorgasbord of Parks and Rec today. We had obviously been through a plan a couple years ago with was new branding for the Parks and Recreation Department. This is the next logical step, is updating our wayfinding signage, entry signs throughout the park system. Right now, we have $75,000 earmarked for this project. A good example of a post and panel sign, if anyone has been to Ben Chelani, there's a new post and panel sign there that would be the same design we'd like to see throughout the system. I don't have, unfortunately, a good example of a monument sign, which we would see at Rotary or Bicentennial or Ford Field or Sheldon, our community parks. Our post and panel signs would go to all of our smaller neighborhood parks, so you can see what those are. We had 2 companies bid on this project. We are asking for council to approve the low bidder, which was Johnson Sign Company, and we're asking the council to approve the per unit price of these. I'm happy to answer any questions
Council
council might
President.
have on this.
Mr. McCullough?
No, this is a great proactive step. I think there's probably 10 different signs that are scattered around the park, so this gives us a standardization. I'd be happy to offer an approving on consent if there are no objections.
Okay. Any audience comment on 7? I see none. We'll move on to 8. That's a request for approval of an agreement for conservation easement from Parks and Rec regarding an eagle conservation easement along the Bell branch of the Rouge River within Bluegrass Park. Mr. Davis?
Thank you. Ted Davis again, representing Parks and Recreation. We have some people here from Ashley Capital that are going to explain this as well, but what we're asking for is an eagle agreement for a conservation easement through Bluegrass Park. This will help with stormwater management. This actually is a huge benefit to Livonia. Ashley Capital would have to get credits, correct me if I'm wrong, for development projects. They look for communities and places to do these. Livonia is a lucky recipient of this. This is effectively $1 million that is going to be invested in this small portion of the Rouge River, the Bell branch of the Rouge River, to again help with erosion and stormwater management. I'll let much more qualified people handle it from here.
Good evening to the council. Kyle Morton from Ashley Capital. And I've got Rob here from ECT. So this is a little bit different than something we've ever brought in front of the city. This is not a warehouse. We have a really unique opportunity. We had a project in Van Buren Township where we were impacting about 2,500 linear feet of a Wayne County drain. Unfortunately, a few years ago, our friends from Eagle decided to quantify that as a stream. So we are looking at needing to do some stream mitigation. We spent some considerable time working with the county and some of the municipalities around Van Buren. We ended up, actually luckily through Rob, we're able to connect with the Parks Department. We originally looked at the Denmar Drain behind Hoover, and this turned out to be a perfect fit. We are really excited to partner with Livonia again. As mentioned, this is a project we fully pay for. I believe you guys got in the packet some pictures of the existing condition. And I think the project benefits first sentence kind of hits this nail on the head. It's that the stream mitigation would involve stabilizing excessive bank erosion, stream restoration, and native plantings at no cost to the city. So the trade-off here is that we do need a long-term conservation easement. What Eagle wants to make sure is that once this money is spent, that Livonia doesn't change its mind and say, you know what, we're going to build some bridges across this and remove the work that's been done. So this is hopefully my knowledge of this part. I'll defer to Rob here on some of the specifics, exactly what we're talking about, and he can give you a few of the highlights of exactly what's on this board.
Okay, thanks. Well, yeah, we did a preliminary site assessment out here and just identified this as a really critical erosion site. We have about a 1/4 mile of stream here with severe bank erosion. The banks are vertical, 6-foot high to maybe 12-foot high, and this site is all located within city parkland. So it's a great opportunity to take what's currently, you know, a safety issue and turn that liability into an asset for the community. So, you know, we looked at this site and we think that we pretty much need to restore the entire 1,450 feet of stream in order to get the number of credits that we need for this site. It's actually like a 3 or 4 to 1 ratio we have to do in order to achieve the credits required. And Eagle's stream mitigation program is fairly new. It's only been in place for about 2 years. I've done some mitigation before that, but the program's starting to become more formalized and it's evolving. So EPA requires them to have a conservation easement in place. And as we develop these concepts further and continue discussions with the Parks and Recreation Commission and other folks at the city, want to make sure that you know, we have the approvals for the ability to have a conservation easement. As we finalize the plans, you know, we will be preparing, surveyor will be preparing legal documents of the exact delineation of the survey area. What we're showing here right now is a real narrow stretch because of the narrowness of the valley, maybe 60 feet up through here, down to about, on average, maybe 120 feet down through this section. And we're going to re-meander, restore riffles and pools. You'll have sound as you walk through this area, and fish and frogs and everything. So I think that, you know, it has some real restoration potential for this part of the Rouge. It's a fairly small tributary, and want to make sure that we get your support. The other thing we've noticed out here, there is a swale along this side of the property draining from the existing tennis courts that we're going to regrade and restore. It's covered in invasive thorny buckthorn right now, and all of the higher quality trees really are south of this line in the nature preserve area, which is a few hundred feet to the south. That's more old growth. Wooded area that existed in the 40s. Everything, you know, along the stream corridor and north really wasn't there. There were maybe a dozen trees back in the 50s, and it was all farm field back then. So, you know, we've looked at the site, think that it has some pretty good restoration potential, and want to make sure we're able to address any questions.
Mr. Donovan?
Thank you, Mr. President. Question and a comment. Question, can you explain the access, because you have to kind of get back there, which will be difficult with large machinery?
Yes. Yep. So there are an existing guardrail at a dead end off the end of Hicks Road here. So it's fairly easy to get access to this existing turf grass area. Come in alongside the tennis court through here. In an open space, and then come around the tree line through the existing turf grass here and get access to the far end. So we're going to need to probably bring some gravel in, some other materials to do the construction, all natural types of materials, but this allows us to get access around the wooded area, along the stream court itself. There will be some grading and some tree removal required, and we'll be replacing anything with native vegetation.
And then comment is, I was really hoping that Mr. Davis, our Parks and Rec Director, would be explaining the engineering specifications here. But I do appreciate Ashley Capital, Mr. and Mr. Nelson. Thank you guys both for selecting Livonia. The whole Eagle thing is very confusing, but you're mandated by Eagle to select a site somewhere in the state of Michigan to invest a lot of money to rectify other developmental requirements from other developments, and you chose Livonia, and you could have chosen a lot of different communities. So thank you to Ashley Capital and to the Nelson family for coming and choosing Livonia to invest all this money and solve an issue for us. Thank you very much.
I'm going to go to Mr. Barr,
Okay.
and then you can go.
Just probably to echo a little bit what Rob said, Livonia's got a lot of hidden gems. And this is one of them. that tennis court there back at the end of Hicks Street. I've got a daughter I play tennis with, and we'll often go back there to play. And there's been number of times when we're done that we'll walk back in the existing trails in there. And that section in there is just gorgeous as it is. And I'm just really excited about what you guys are doing here. So I don't know if a motion's been or resolution's been offered yet, but I'd offer approving for consent if there's no objection.
Okay. Ms. McIntyre?
I'd just like to ask if it's possible, if you can leave that drawing there. We had everything in our packets, because I'm not a civil or water engineer or an environmental engineer. It's hard to understand on a small scale, but I'd like to keep this because I'd like to understand a little bit more about the project. And to Mr. Barr's point, I was just over at that park last week. It's phenomenal, and I'd just like to understand more about how the grants come about and be able to reference this.
Okay.
So, or if you could send a drawing of that size over to us if you don't want to leave that one here,
You can have that one.
that'd be great.
And this plan is evolving as
Yep.
we have to meet with Eagle, with MDOT, and work out the details. But in general, that's the area of impact that we're.
And again, I'm not going to look at this to be able to hold you to anything and say, well, you know, this suggested this and you did this. But really, just conceptually, I find this really helpful, so thank you.
All right.
Council President?
Mr. McCullough?
I just wanted to say you guys had me at investing $1 million, no cost to our taxpayers. Thank you guys again. The partnerships that we have with Ashley Capital has been phenomenal. You guys have done great things in our city, and we look for the continued progress. Thank you again for doing this.
Thank you.
In addition, to be clear, there'll be an additional 5 years of monitoring and maintenance
Yep.
required on top of the construction, which will take place next summer. Typically, it's a summertime construction period due to fisheries windows, so I would say after July 4th.
Through the chair, I have one small little point too. There's a very, very small section of the stream that's the creek that's actually owned by MDOT. There's a little notch. It's kind of probably behind Todd's head there, but
In the corner.
I forgot to
At the bend right there.
so we may come ask for a letter of support from the city just to, hey, we as Ashley Capital can't acquire that land from MDOT. We kind of have to help facilitate MDOT giving it to the city or getting the ability to build on that. So it looks like it was a piece of a larger parcel when they did eminent domain or something for the 275 widening many years ago. So it really serves no purpose to MDOT, but that may be something that would be helpful from the council to motivate MDOT to move. So
Are you requesting that now?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, do it, do it. Yeah.
Mr. President,
Mr.
I'd like to offer an approving on consent for that for Mr. Morton.
Okay, and let's not put that on consent. We'll put that on the regular. Can you give us, can you forward draft language?
Correct.
To us
We
in
can
the
do
law
that.
department, looking for what you would like to have?
Absolutely.
We'll put that aspect on the regular agenda.
Absolutely. I think we're looking for something very simple just to get to them and acknowledge
Okay.
that we've been in front of this body and in front of the neighbors at the Parks Department, and everybody's aware of what's going on.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you. You have an approving on consent for the grant of easement. We'll put the request for a letter on the regular agenda. I don't think there's any reason for them to come back for that, is there? No, there's no reason for you to come back for the regular or the letter purpose.
Okay.
It'll just give us a chance to look it over and go from there. Okay, is there anything from the audience on item number 8? I see none. Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
You too, take care.
Thank you.
Excuse me, because we're a little confused.
Yeah,
The original motion was made by Mr. Barr to put it on consent, and then Mr. Donovic made a motion that was going the regular. Was that for the second portion of it, or for the entire thing?
for the second portion.
Okay.
Requesting a letter so
Okay.
that we could review the language of the letter, which we don't have.
Okay.
Item 9 is a request to waive the formal bidding process and authorize the purchase and installation of a splash pad features at Jack Kirksey Recreation Center through the Sourcewell Purchasing Program from Parks and Rec to replace the existing features from budgeted funds. Mr. Davis?
Thank you, Council President Jolly. Ted Davis again, representing Parks and Recreation. We're asking that council Authorize an expenditure and purchasing through Sourcewell Purchasing. This is for the replacement of all, really, it is not just a replacement of features. We are completely redoing the splash pad at the Jackie Kirksey Recreation Center. It's 21 years old. If you've been out there with your kids, you've realized that some of the features don't work anymore. That's because lines are clogged with poor material that was used for surfacing it over the years. At this point, it is honestly easier and cheaper for us to simply just remove and replace with a brand new splash pad. This is going to be water play features. These are the same brand of features we have in the indoor zero depth entry. So theoretically, they would be interchangeable indoors and outdoors if we wanted to. I'm happy with, this is also covering 2 fiscal years. We have money budgeted in 2023, and with your approval tonight in the regular meeting, thankfully, we have money budgeted in 2024 for this project as well. I'm happy to answer any questions council might have on this.
Mr. President.
Mr. Morgan?
And it's time flies. I remember when that Jack Kirksey Recreation Center was being built, and it just doesn't seem that long ago, but 21 years is a long time to keep that in service. So I'm going to offer an approving on consent.
Thank Mr. Barr?
One question for Mr. Davis, and of all, as familiar as I am with that rec center, I'm not familiar with, I mean, I know where it is, but I just never used it and don't pay a lot of attention to it. Does it get pretty heavy use?
Yeah.
Sometime? Does it? Okay.
And actually, it would get more if it was better.
Okay.
It is pretty lame in its current state compared to other splash pads.
It is substandard, I would say. At the time it was built, it was state-of-the-art. That was 20 years ago. This is today. Things are much different. We can do better.
Yeah, and the reason for my, I won't take a ton of time here, the reason for my question was just, I'm familiar with splash parks in other cities. I know it sounds weird, I'm probably more familiar with a few other ones, but it's just because of some events my family's involved in, church-related. But I've sometimes wondered just if the splash pad we have is hurt by being right up against a rec center versus being out in the middle of a park, like some others. But I take your word for it. If it's heavily used, I'm good. I was just curious. I just don't spend time out there, so I didn't know.
I mean, I think I would love to have a discussion at another time about whether we place a splash pad in a park setting, and I think there's probably a need there. This isn't it. This is simply replacing what we have, and I think it is well used, and it is, an amenity that we rely on at the rec center.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. McIntyre?
Just to put this in a little bit of context, you said 20 years ago it was state-of-the-art. I
Yes.
like to think that 20 years ago I was state-of-the-art, and
So
I
do
know I no
would
longer
like-
am.
I would like to think I was 20 years ago as well.
All right, so we have an approving for consent. Any comment from the audience on 9? Seeing none, we'll move to 10.
Thank
And
you
you're
very
done?
much. I am.
Yay. I mean, nice.
Next time, we're going to invite you to sit up here with us,
Yeah.
just to make
No,
you.
thank you.
Oh,
10 is a request to extend a contract with ERG Environmental Services from DPW for household hazardous waste drop-offs for a 4-year extension from the Municipal Refuge Fund, Council Resolution 361-19. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Council. Doug Moore with the Department of Public Works. 4 years ago, we approached ERG Environmental Services about Household Hazardous Waste Day. They were the only bidder at our last Ford Field event. You might all remember that, the organized chaos that it was, the backup on Farmington Road for hours, the 2-day event. Because they were the only bidder, and because they're in Livonia, they approached us with a novel idea, which was, we'll take all your household hazardous waste at our building. And we were like, this is cool. So that 4-year contract is up. They came back with pricing for the next 4-year cycle, beginning next year, with 5% increases, which was in the original 4-year contract. So we have the pricing here. The department has put in money into next year's departmental budget to try to fund this event for a full year, rather than go 7 months. For those of you that were on council 4 years ago, you might remember I had to come back in August and ask for $60,000 to get us to October that first year. The next year, we had to come back and ask for, I think, $40,000 to get us to October. And then the next 2 years of this being the second of the two, demand's fallen off, so hopefully that's a good sign. Maybe people have finally, we're getting through the high point and stabilizing. But we're hoping that the $190,000 for next year will get us a full year event, which we've had people ask always the first week of October, why is it over? Why is it over? Why'd you end? Why do we have to pay? And it was because funding. So, council, if you have questions.
Mr. Barr?
I have a few questions, Doug, and thanks for coming back here tonight. So a couple things I just want to clarify first to make sure I understand correctly. So the per drop fee that you talk about, that's what the city is paying every time somebody drops something off in addition to the $5 copay, right?
Yes.
Okay. Second question, the contract amounts per year that are in here, are those maximum amounts? Or are those estimated amounts?
Estimated amounts for us, maximum amounts for the year. If we reach $182,000, we'll shut the program down.
You'll shut it
for
down,
the year.
okay, we
Yes.
don't, okay. Next question, just, I don't have facts or figures to back up what I'm about to say, other than just 5% for a year, 4 years past, 4 years into the future. That's pretty nice exponential growth in costs, and it seems higher than, you know, a lot of times we'll see 2 or 3% increases, but 5%, does that it strikes me as unreasonable.
I can't specifically say. I will say, I know they have costs. They're gonna have labor costs. They're gonna have costs to get rid of this material. And it's hazardous waste. I have no idea how they get rid of it. I don't know that I wanna know how they get rid of it.
Well, and they're the only bidder, right? I mean,
Pardon me?
there's not
Yes.
competition for
They're-
it, which.
They were the last bidder with the outdoor program too. The last company was US Ecology, and they dropped out of it. It just got too much to get rid of the stuff.
Okay, the next question I had is, do you, and I don't know if you know this data, but do we have an idea of what the demand during the winter months is, whether it's increased instances of finding this in people's trash, or whether it's requests? Like, do you anticipate the demand you see during the summer months just continuing through the winter if we go year round, or?
I do not. I think we see the demand start in March because that's when we open it. But as the season goes on, the demand falls off. I don't think we'll see a lot of demand through the winter because I think people are just gonna kind of sit and wait. You know, or they've already cleaned most of it out. It'll be interesting to see this time next year how December, January, February went, because we don't know.
Okay, fair. So there's, you said $194,000 extra included in here roughly in order for it to go, and that's over 4 years, right?
Yes.
So that would indicate that we're expecting not to see a leveling of demand, but we're looking to see more demand. Additional drop-offs is what we're expecting, right?
Could be, maybe, I don't know.
And here's where I'm going with this. And I appreciate where you're coming from. Don't have any issue with the rationale you're laying out here. I guess I'm just wondering, why would we commit to 4 years for the year round? Is it possible to, with that extra cost? I just said earlier tonight, we're looking for 200,000 here, 200,000 there. Here's 200,000 roughly. Would it make sense to do year round for a year or two, assess it, and then?
I think it'd be at your discretion. We asked ERG for bid pricing for the next 4 years.
Okay.
Because that's what the first program was.
I guess I would, and I like that we do this. It is extra cost for the city from, I didn't ask you this question tonight, but we had some brief exchange earlier. I know this is extra cost to the city from the way we used to do it. I think that's good. I think it's a better service for our residents. But obviously, we always just have to balance good service, better service for the residents, but then there's costs. And just like any of us, we have to balance those things. I'd like to propose, if the contract will allow us to do it, which it sounds like it would, I'd like to propose a resolution that we approve this, but with just 2 years of the year round for right now. And then we can reassess and see if it makes sense to continue that, or if we're better off just sticking with the 6 months. And again, just trying to be a little bit cost conscious here in light of the other financial pressures the city's dealing with. I will say one more thing about that. I recognize this comes from the refuse millage, where we have plenty of room right now. But I also recognize that plenty of room may change in coming years, just with what we know is coming with garbage contracts. So I want to be careful with that money too. So that would be, maybe somebody else has a different one, but I would offer that, the approving, except with only 2 years for the year round for now.
Thank you, Mr. Bart. So, Doug, I called you at some point about this because I found myself, at some point I was cleaning out my garage and putting things into my truck. And I had neighbors ask me what I was doing. And I said, oh, can you take this? Can you take this? Can you take this? And I went to this facility and I ended up having to pay them over $200. So, I mean, I paid it, right? I mean, it's like my price for being a neighbor, I guess. But can you, but here's why I'm bringing this up. It was not at all detailed that there were limitations on the city's website at all. So this happened to me. I ate it. I think I talked to you about it at some point. I don't know if you recall. But then at some point later on, I heard from other people who this has happened to as well. So what's the solution in terms of notifying people in regards to weight limits and applicable limitations for dropping things off? Because when you're dropping off old paint cans and the such, the poundage adds up very, very quickly.
So paint can go out, as long as it's dry, can go out GFL with trash. You just throw kitty litter in it, let it dry out. GFL will take that. I know people take it to ERG. You don't necessarily need to. I know there can be ways to get it out on social media, the city website. It's the first 100 pounds the city picks up. After that, it's 75 cents a pound for the residents to pay. We just would have to hit social media, city website.
Yeah, I think the city website would be the most applicable place if it's not already there. And you may have added it after we talked about it last time. It's a great service. I think it's just, when you go there and you end up having to pay something, it's different from the old drop-off system as well. And I think
Right.
that's the disconnect.
Right.
But, thank you, sir.
Yes.
Okay, we have an approving on consent for 2 years. Is there anything else from council? Anything from the audience? I see nothing.
Mr. Chair, I need to clarify what I'd asked for, and tell me if this is okay. I'm okay with the 4 years. It's just that for the year-round portion, the 2 years. I just want to clarify, that's what I intended. So, thanks.
Did you have something?
No, I was just going to make sure that we clarified, because I thought I had understood what Mr. Barr just clarified is what we were putting on consent.
Okay. Okay, you're all set. That's on consent. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
Item 11, the final item, request to accept stormwater facilities maintenance agreement from the Engineering Division from the Salvation Army in conjunction with the construction of a storm drain system that provides adequate drainage for the newly renovated Salvation Army located at 33600 Plymouth Road in the southeast quarter of Section 28. And Mr. Zelinsik, you're always last.
Save the best for last, as I say. Just the standard housekeeping issues. You know, Salvation Army's been renovated. It looks very nice down there. Obviously, to have it overhanged for people to drop stuff off. So very pleased to accept this and looking for council's approval. Real quick, for last item that you talked about, also Wayne County does offer other drop-off areas throughout the summer. So look for other opportunities to do the hazardous waste free that Wayne County offers on their website. So always good opportunities. And again, no good deed goes unpunished, as you know, Councilman President. On that one, so being a good neighbor, so.
I'm hoping the neighbors are going to take it for the next couple of years, so.
Just take up a pop collection, you'll be all set. Thank
Can I
you.
have a motion, please?
So moved.
Consent from
Consent.
Toy, if that's okay. Any audience, do you want to talk to us about anything, or? Not on this, not on anything? All right, we have no audience communication, and we're going to call it good night. Good night, Livonia, be well.